Welcome to Real Estate Investing Abundance, the show for busy, fulfilled professionals like you to learn how to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. Now, here is your host, Dr. Alan Lomax.
Hello, enlightened investors. Welcome, and I'm delighted that you are joining us for the launch of our new podcast, Real Estate Investing Abundance. 3 times each week, we will bring value bombs of investment wisdom from the most successful and renowned experts in the industry. The focus is on passive investment in real estate to help you as our listeners develop financial independence to live life abundantly. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment, find us on Apple Podcasts, and leave us a review. Reviews are vital to growing our audience so we can help more people find their avenue to financial freedom. Each week for the first 4 weeks, we will do a drawing of all those who submit reviews. The winner of the drawing will receive a $25 Barnes & Noble gift certificate. So please go to Apple Podcast and leave us a review. Our guest today, Nizan Mosery, appeared twice on Creekside Chats with successful real estate investors, and I am thrilled and honored that he has agreed to join us once again in the launch of Real Estate Investing Abundance. Nizan owns properties across the nation and internationally and regularly shares his vast wealth of accumulated investment wisdom through teaching and mentoring. Nizan, I know our enlightened investors are eager to get into the topic of real estate and finance, but before we do that, tell us about your time with the Dalai Lama.
So I was in India traveling, and I was in Dharamsala, and he was conducting a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And I was privileged to spend time with him during the meditation periods and hear his, what they call the satsangs, and just listen to his wisdom and talkings. And it was incredibly enlightening. The man has a lot of depth, a lot of wisdom, and it comes from a simplicity. Not complex. He looks at things with, for lack of a better saying, with child eyes, and comes from his inner child. And we should all be so lucky to move through the world that way.
Yeah, for sure. What an experience. 8 days. Wow. Yeah, I'll bet you remember that.
Oh, absolutely.
For a lifetime. This time last year, almost everyone in the industry was predicting a retraction in the multifamily sector. There was an expectation that sale prices would decline and cap rates would rise. But just the opposite has occurred. Given that, where do you see the current state of affairs to be at the moment, and where do you see it going here in the multifamily sector?
In multifamily right now, it's a feeding frenzy. It's a seller's market for sure. There are tons of buyers out there looking for assets, looking for properties. It's incredible the cap rate compression that's going on in some of the major cities around the country, Georgia, right in Atlanta, Charlotte, Northern Florida, Jacksonville, Tampa, even in South Florida, Miami. You're looking at Salt Lake City, Provo. A lot of these main cities are just being bombarded with people moving out of California, northeastern states, New York, New Jersey, and they're moving because of the situation that happened during the pandemic. They wanted a little bit more freedom to get out, and they wanted businesses to be open. A lot of people lost their businesses, lost their homes, didn't know where to go, decided to move. So there's a lot of that going to happen as well, and is happening. So a lot of people will be renting, right? Just like what happened in 06, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. A lot of people lost their homes, they became renters, and so forth. And I see that happening now as well. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of people moving. And plus, we're getting the millennials that are getting older now as well. And the newer generation that's coming up, the trend is still the younger generation don't want to buy a home. They want to be transient, especially now. The pandemic kind of set new rules for industry, for any industry, where now we can do what we're doing here, have a conference call on a Zoom, and you can do work from your home. You can do work from a library, from a coffee shop, anywhere that has a Wi-Fi connection, a camera, and a microphone. You can function and you can do your business. That is that's been the trend now. So a lot of millennials have been moving to the mountain states. A lot of northerners are moving south. They're looking for the best deals. And what I've noticed also is there's the trend is housing gets hit first, then multifamily, then office and hospitality and so forth, or hospitality before. But basically residential is your gauge. And what we're seeing now on the National Association of Realtors websites and whatnot is usually when there's an influx of properties onto the market, when there's a huge inventory, prices go down because then it becomes a buyer's market. Then buyers have the choice which property to buy and negotiate for the best deal and whatnot. But what we're seeing here is a phenomenon. We're seeing more properties coming on the market, but prices are going up.
Is there not a shortage in terms of housing? Before 2008, there was a real flurry of building and the housing sector was oversupplied, but we're not seeing that this time. But there's a lot of respected investors that I have been talking to that are really turning away from multifamily because of the inflated prices, and there's just not really any viable deals out there. What is your take on that? Is this a time to just sit and watch what's coming, or what do you think about that?
I would say if you're an owner of multifamily and you have a portfolio, I would sell some of your assets, sell some of your older assets that you've held on for 3-4 years. This is the time to sell. We don't want to hold on to them and ride that extra wave, that down cycle again, and on that and bring it back up. There's a lot of buyers. People are buying. I would say grab as much cash as you can and hold on to it for a little while. There's a lot of incentive now to build as well. New construction of multifamily. I'm seeing in Miami, for example, which is an hour away from me, buildings that were built in 1920s. It's 100 years old, a 100-year-old building, and they're going for $200,000 a door. I could build for less than that.
No kidding. Wow.
So why would I buy a 1920 construction when I can go and find a piece of land that is owned by a mom and pop and do a JV with them? They bring in the land, we'll build and we'll construct and we'll do everything, and we'll split the profits the way we come up with the arrangements. But it's a lot better to do that. You have a better product, your repairs and maintenance are a lot less. Your upkeep is a lot less. It's a brand new building. You can set it up with new technology and whatnot and make it really nice and fancy and beautiful for all the millennials and all the executives that are now working from home. It's a lot easier. So why would I want to go and buy a 1920 property for $200,000 a door when I can build for less?
Yeah. Wow, that's phenomenal. That is happening all over the country. Some respected investors I have talked to, rather than sitting on the sidelines, are going to construction, but others are looking at the motel hotel sector, a sector that's been really hit hard this last year. So the thinking is that crisis leads to opportunity, and certainly Warren Buffett is known for buying when everyone else is selling and vice versa. So what's your advice in considering the motel hotel sector?
Everything is cyclical. Everything has its ups and its downs. Warren Buffett says when there's blood on the street, that's when you buy. When people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful. The hotel industry got hit hard. Cruise ships. That entire hospitality travel industry was hit hard. I heard the CEO of Airbnb come out and say that post-pandemic, we're going to be millions and millions of rooms short on short-term vacation rental properties. There's not going to be enough to house the demand. So that's also a good play, right? To go in.
Right.
Now, you don't have to buy a property to do Airbnb. You can rent a house, rent an apartment, and and share with the owner that this is what your strategy is going to be. And now you can make money on that. So that's going in. Personally, we have a hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. It's a very big hotel. It's 240 rooms. We have an industrial kitchen. So when the pandemic hit, and you have to think out of the box, right? So when the pandemic hit, we said, okay, how can we keep the hotel open? What do we need to do? How do we adjust? How do we pivot? So we went to the city, and thank God we have a general manager who knows everybody in the city, the mayor, the chief of police, everybody. He's been in the hospitality industry for over 30 years. So he knows everybody in that arena. And we were able to help house in the beginning some of the reserve soldiers that were coming in. Then we were helping them out with housing people that lost their housing, sheltering people, creating food meals for people. So we were able to generate income and keep our employees working safe, keep the rooms clean, and keep the property and the doors open. And you know what? Last year during the pandemic was one of our better years. And now that we're coming out of it, we're surpassing last year's numbers. So it's a lot of hotels closed because they couldn't pivot. And not every hotel can do that. But when you're thrown into the lion's den, you have to be very creative to sustain life. And that's what you have to do as an owner operator. Figure out solutions, problem solving.
You seem to have quite a knack for pivoting and thinking outside of the box. That comes with a lot of years of experience. And
that's where the white comes from.
Yes, yes. That white looks very sophisticated on you.
Thank you.
Others are turning from multifamily apartments and looking into the mobile home sector, which has typically been very resistant, at least to a degree. What's your feeling on mobile home investing?
I think mobile homes are great. You buy the land, you buy the pads, right? You own the pads, and you can bring in a mobile home. And if somebody wants to live there, you can lease option the mobile home to them, so they pay all the expenses and repairs and maintenance, or seller finance it to them, and then all you do is you collect your portion, right? And again, it's a very cheap way of giving someone housing. You can pick up mobile homes for pennies on the dollar and bring them on and connect them, and people love them. I've traveled this country a lot, and wherever you go in some of the most beautiful areas, mobile home parks. You see mobile home parks, mobile homes. It's all over the place. And it's funny, a lot of the times these mobile home parks have some of the best properties and locations on the water, on top of the mountain with the view, on the intercoastal. You can really find some nice places. And again, it's a good solution for people who need cheaper housing than going to an apartment or buying or renting a house and whatnot. And you can get a nice mobile home for very spacious. And you, as the owner of the mobile home park, it's a good investment.
It seems to be, and oftentimes it seems to me like the return on investment is higher on mobile home parks than it is on multifamily. And like you say, there's less risk in a lot of ways because you don't have the maintenance and upkeep issues to the extent that you do with apartments. There are things with mobile homes. Oftentimes they're on septic systems and private water systems, and that's a whole different ball game. But it's just something you have to deal with if you're going to go into the mobile home park industry. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. As an industry-leading, relationship-focused, design-build construction firm, Mosaic Construction has worked in many different asset classes from multifamily to retail, medical, industrial, and commercial. Mosaic Construction works to execute interior and exterior renovations with their team of trades and project managers. Their experience with value-add improvements has resulted in increased ROI and long-term value of the assets. They work nationally in partnership with local trades to deliver thoughtful, problem-solving construction management solutions to all their clients. For a personal, no-obligation consultation, call Ira Singer, 773-491-3145, or email Ira at mosaicconstruction.net. You can also find Ira on LinkedIn. Where do you see the economy moving in the next year, the next 2 years, and the next 3 years?
Wow, it's a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball to give you that. It's a tough question. We're seeing gas prices going through the roof right now. Raw materials are skyrocketing. I have a friend of mine who he does toys. He manufactures and imports toys from China. So he deals a lot with shipping. And we were just actually sitting last night talking about this, how the shipping industry is owned. It's not a monopoly. What is it? An oligarchy, I think they call it, where it's 4 or 5 companies that own all of the shipping routes and containers and ships. And what they've done is post-pandemic, if you wanted to ship a container, a 40-foot container, it would cost you about $2,000. Now they're charging you $9,000.
Really? Wow.
So everything is going to go up.
Yeah.
Raw materials, toys, things from China that cost $1 are now going up because people have to pay, I don't even know, what is that, 4,000% increase, something like that, from $2,000 to $9,000 per container. And you have to come in 30 days before you want to ship and reserve your spot, or there's no spots. There's no place. So, everything is going up. So when you look at that, what is that going to say for the construction industry? What is that going to say? Because now people are concrete, wood, your PVC piping, right, for your plumbing, all that has gone up 30, 40, 50% in pricing. So people will start to think maybe I shouldn't build now. The renovations that I wanted to do, maybe I'll hold off. I'm not going to travel and take my mobile home out because gas prices are now at almost $4 a gallon. What's that all about? So that's going to affect all of us globally, not just here in the US. So what do? How do you fight that? How do you combat that? You gotta, this is time now, I think, to start conserving the dollars and the cash, because we may see a correction. I don't know if we're going to see an 07, 08 correction, but there'll be a little bump, I would say, and then we'll level off. But things are getting more expensive, right? So it's hard to say. Multifamily is getting more expensive as well, real estate. So what do? If you're a seller and you want to sell your residential home right now, it's great because you'll probably make a killing on it. But what are you going to turn around and buy after that? Are you going to just rent and spend all your profit on the rent and then be left with nothing again? Or now do you have to go and buy a more expensive house and have a higher mortgage and whatnot? So it's people want to sell, but what am I going to buy afterwards? I get calls on a daily basis from my residential home saying, hey, do you want to sell? We'll give you X amount of money. I said, great. What am I going to buy with that? I can't really go out and buy the same house that I'm living in for the price that I'm selling it, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so many things are so unprecedented, and nobody predicted this is where we would be this time this year. One way the government attempts to keep things going is with interest rates, and they have driven interest rates down to the bare minimum. It looks like they're going to attempt to keep those down for the foreseeable future, but you can only do that for so long. Although I was talking to an economist a couple of weeks ago who said you'd be amazed at how long they can keep all the plates in the air. His example was that Japan has been doing it for the last 20 years and no sight in ending it there either, because nobody wants to experience pain. And everyone's trying to keep all of these plates in the air. But it seems to me it's not based on anything real. The stock market is astronomically high, and it's just not based on value. Everybody knows that, and yet they're still buying like there's no end to this. I do wish you had a crystal ball, because I would like to know what's going to happen. I can't believe where we are today in terms of where we were last year, and everything looked like it was going to come to a screeching halt, and yet it has done just the opposite.
We were all, and everybody in the multifamily industry was thinking, okay, the shutdown happened, prices are going to drop. We're going to have another feeding frenzy here. We're going to have another '08. Prices are going to crash. Oh my God, all these properties that went into forbearance are now going to come on the market, and discounted prices and so forth. It's amazing. Yeah. We were shut down. Everything was locked down. The stock market kept going up. And like you said, during the shutdown, we saw how fake everything is. The economy, the stock market, the cryptocurrencies, money itself is just so fake. Because if we can shut everything down and just kill it all, and then resurge it and move it back just by printing money, it just shows how volatile and how fake it all is. So where do we put the basis? Where do we put our finger on and say, okay, this is real, and from here we can move forward? Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore.
Enlightened investors will be right back after this important message. I hope you're finding today's show informative and enlightening, and that you will please take a moment to find us on Apple Podcast and leave us a review. Each week for the first 4 weeks of the launch, we will hold a drawing of all those who submit reviews. The winner of the drawing will receive a $25 Barnes & Noble gift certificate. Reviews are very important for growing our audience. Your review will be immensely appreciated and will help others find their avenue to financial freedom. I can't think of the fellow's name now. He used to be, I think he was the Secretary of Treasury for Greece at one time. He was saying, he lives here in the States now, but he was saying that this is the first time that this has ever happened, that the stock market increased at the same time that unemployment rates were increasing. He said, clearly, the stock market is not based upon a real economy.
That's right.
That could never happen in a real economy.
And you people like Elon Musk manipulating the cryptocurrency market. he comes out on Saturday Night Live and talks about Dogecoin. And then he goes out and he buys, what, $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And then he buys this and just to influence the market and to drop prices and to do things. It just shows you how people, one or two people, can completely change the trajectory of an economy, like the cryptocurrency, for example. So if they can do that to the cryptocurrency, who knows to say what they can do with the stock market, the Dow Jones,
and real estate, and with our actual currency. Yeah. Given all of that, what are you doing these days? I guess you are looking for land and building. What else are you doing?
We're looking for land. We're looking to build. We're looking at different projects to go into. We're still looking for multifamily. We're looking for multifamily now that cash flows well and that has upside, but more so cash flowing in an area that has not gentrified yet, but will be gentrifying. We're looking for properties now that have subsidies, governmental subsidies, just so that we can get the guarantee of the income coming in if anything should happen next year with another shutdown, another God knows what, who knows what's going on. So those are the types of properties that we're looking at right now, but we're also looking for normal free market rental properties that have a value play. But again, we're being very conservative with our underwriting. We're not going to buy a 4 cap. A lot of these people are buying today just for the sake of buying. Rents are going through the roof, right? Because there's a huge demand for people that want to rent. And we're buying, and I'm in the process of selling some assets as well. It's a cycle, right? Some properties come due, and this is the time to sell, and we're acquiring new ones. So it's cyclical. That's what we're doing right now.
I can see your reasoning in terms of constructing now, but with the increased cost of materials, it seems to me like real uncertainty as to where this economy is going. A construction project could get caught in a bad way. You're doing it, so I guess it's not concerning you maybe quite as much as it is me. Talk to me about that.
Construction is always a huge risk because you don't get paid until the property is completed, until it's stabilized, it's cash flowing, and then you make your money. Obviously, there are fees that are thrown in with the construction process of it and so forth, but it is a risk, right? The bottom falls out from underneath you and you're in the middle of construction and you don't have any more money, or the bank pulls the loan on you. What do you do then? So it is a risk. You have to, risk takers, this is what we do, right? We try to minimize the risk as much as possible for our investors and for ourselves. You want to go into a market that has a high barrier of entry, that doesn't have any more units coming online. You want to build fast, right? You want to be able to go in, construct, and start occupying, right? Immediately. The single family construction home projects, they're booming right now, right? People are, even though there are raw material is going up in pricing, but comparatively to what you can get for a house that's old and what you can pay to build a house, prices have gone up 30% for construction, but you may still be able to buy a house that is newly constructed for cheaper than what you would a regular house. People want to buy. People are buying houses now sight unseen, and they're paying above asking price because there's such a bidding frenzy. So if you can go now and get people a home that fits their needs exactly, they're willing to pay that price. So you can maybe charge them a little bit more for that, maybe charge them the same as a regular house. But the construction industry, it's still moving forward. You still see the cranes, you still see the contractors, you still see things moving. I don't think it's really hit hard, the increase in raw materials yet. It will, but I don't see it now. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I was talking to a builder day before yesterday, and they had been pre-selling homes last year. They have stopped pre-selling, and they are not putting homes on the market until they get the sheetrock in the home. And obviously the bulk of the materials have been purchased by that particular time. The market is going right along with them. They are not having any problem with increased prices to meet the needs because that market is escalating right along with the material costs. So I don't know. It's
crazy that we're living in right now.
Yes, it is indeed. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Would you ever invest all your money in a single stock? Very unlikely. Yet investors are willing to risk $50,000 to $100,000 in a single property in real estate all the time. Avestor is the world's first customizable real estate investment platform. Investors can build their own custom portfolios selecting investments across multiple asset classes such as single-family homes, multifamily, student housing, self-storage, and shopping centers. You can also invest across multiple markets and different time frames. Avestra also enables other real estate entrepreneurs and syndicators to build and use Avestra's infrastructure and cloud platform to create their own customizable real estate funds. To learn more, visit us at avestrainc.com. Avestra, real estate investing made simple.
Before we go into our last segment, Nizan, share with our viewers and listeners what you have to offer them and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So for your listeners, I'm offering a free gift. It's a 5-step roadmap to getting started in real estate with apartment buildings. It shows you the step-by-steps that I use to acquire multifamily properties, how to find the right market, how to talk to the brokers, how to find the right neighborhood, how to analyze, how to raise capital, that whole process. And they can get it for free. You can offer it on the link with your podcast show. And then they can reach me. My website is www.traveling-investor.com. They can check out my portfolio at www.investwithcip.com. And through my websites, they can reach out to me. And I'm also on all social media platforms known as the Traveling Investor.
Very good. Well, I'm going to reach out and get your free offer myself. So, Nizan, share with us one of the most difficult setbacks in your life, not necessarily related to the industry, but your most difficult setback, and how did you come through that time, and what did you learn from that experience?
Difficult setback. That's a great one. I would say one of the toughest times of my life was when my father passed away. It threw me for a down loop because I'd seen this man his entire life work and provide and build, and he ended up in a box. And I realized that we all end up in a box, kind of where we're all headed to. But at the time when I was 25 years old, I didn't really understand. Why work so hard just to get ill, be sick, be a burden to your family, and then pass away? I didn't want that. It threw me for a loop. So I went and I guess the meaning of life, the meaning of who I was and what I was doing disappeared. It just went up in smoke. I was always taught to believe that money was everything and you got to go out and chase after the money. I saw my brothers do that. I saw my father do that. And where did it leave him? But dead at 65 in a box. I didn't want that for my life, but it spun me out. And for about 2 years, I was drinking and partying and just trying to fill that empty hole that was inside my chest with as much alcohol and women as I could, but it just got bigger and bigger. And then I decided that New York was not a place for me. I said, you know what, now is the time. I've always wanted to move to Israel and move back to Israel. So I packed up my bags, went to Israel, was there for a year. I thought that would fill up the hole. But the wonderful thing that I learned through traveling is that it doesn't matter where you go, your friends, that I call your problems, your mind, your mindset travels with you. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting on a rock in the Himalayan mountains, if you're looking over the glaciers of Patagonia, you're still carrying that mindset. You're still carrying those inner thoughts and that hole inside your chest, and nothing can really fix it except going inside and healing yourself and finding yourself and knowing your value and your worth and understanding who you are. And so after Israel, I started traveling the world. And when I was in India, in one of the ashrams, we sat and we were doing meditation. And that's when I started peeling back the onion of Nizan, who I was, all the different layers. And I realized that up until that moment, I'd never had an original thought or an original belief. Everything that I was and who I was imposed on me. From the minute I was a fertilized egg in my mother's womb, you hear the outside noise, you're feeling her emotions and you're eating her food and her stress and everything from her. And then when you come out, they tell you, now you're a Jew and we're going to do this to you if you're a boy. And at the age of 13, you have to have your bar mitzvah, and then you do this and you do that and get married and get a job and eat meat and be a vegetarian, be a vegan, believe in this and believe in that. We don't have an original thought. We don't know who we are. We are the sum total of everything that we've listened to, been programmed to, brainwashed through society, through our friends, family. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm stating this without judgment. It is what it is. This is what happens, right? It's up to us at some point in our lives to realize that. Many of us never realize that. I would say the majority of us never realize that because we're caught up in that hamster wheel chasing our tail, and we don't have time to understand that. We don't have time to realize that. And if we do realize that and we're working, we don't have time to dig deep into it because, you know what, tomorrow I got to go to work. I don't have time to figure out who I am. I got to pay my bills. My car payment is coming up, my house payment. I got to buy Nikes for my kids. Everybody needs a phone. I was very fortunate to have that time to peel back all of that and to ask myself, who am I? What do I believe in? Am I Jewish? Am I a meat eater? Am I a vegan? Am I a vegetarian? Do I want to be married? Do I want to have kids? Who am I? What is my goal in life? What do I want to do with myself? And I was very fortunate to be able to find the answers to those questions, and that filled up the hole. Now, the pain of loss never goes away. You just learn to deal with it in different ways. Understanding where that hole came from and why it's there and how to work with it and how to move forward and how to use it and strengthen me rather than weaken me. This is what I've learned. And that's how I was able to come out of that funk and become the person and the man, the father, the husband, the friend that I am today.
And just for our viewers and listeners, that was a several-year journey for Nizan. It didn't happen overnight. But yes, I expect you're still peeling back the layers. It's a never-ending process for seekers. And what else would you want to be in life? Are you putting your success as an investor and entrepreneur to work to create universal well-being and abundance for all beings?
I created the Traveling Investor website program. I help people, I coach people in mastering their mind, body, and wallet. During my travels, I've learned energy healing, holistic healing, naturopathic medicine, and I've realized that we are a complete being, right? A lot of times we say, oh, my shoulder hurts and it's just my shoulder. No, it's the entire being. It's this whole machine here, and there's a problem here. So there's an issue with the whole being. I look at business and life and everything as being holistic. We cannot separate it. We cannot separate business from personal life, from health, from spirituality, from family. It's all combined, and we have to learn how to manage every aspect. So what I've done is I've created a coaching mentoring program that teaches people how to create the right mindset, first of all, for success, because we're all human beings. We all grew up with parents, right? Our parents, whether they meant to do harm or didn't mean to do harm, sometimes they harmed us. Most of the time they loved us, and even through the love that they gave us, our perceptions of how we receive things is not necessarily their fault. It's how we perceived what was coming to us. And we create these negative limiting patterns and beliefs and whatnot, and we go through life thinking that this is who we are. And again, this is part of peeling back all the layers. I work with people on the mindset, work with people on physical health, how to keep yourself strong, how to keep your body moving forward correctly. And then also with how to create passive income through real estate investing. So my goal is to help people, figure out what kind of lifestyle do you want. Forget about real estate right now. Forget about making money. What is it? What is your vision of your life? What do you want to see? What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? Okay, great. Now let's create that business around that lifestyle that can support your lifestyle so that you can become the best version of you. So that's how I'm going out and promoting and giving back to the world and hopefully putting out positive vibes and good energy.
I love it. Beautiful. Imagine that you've come to the end of your life, and as you lay on your deathbed, what do you look back on with your greatest sense of joy and satisfaction?
My greatest sense of joy would be the family that I created, the friends around me, the legacy that I would leave. This is what I want. I want people to come to my funeral party, as I want, and celebrate my life and see and remember how I've touched each one in a positive way, and how they would say, that guy, I remember when I was down and Nizan was there and he helped me. And when I lost my job and I had to sell my house, Nizan was there to help me and he did this and he did that. The example, I want to be the example of what a good father is, what a good husband is, a good friend, a mentor, a business person. I believe that the legacy that we leave behind shows the life that we've lived. So that's what.
Absolutely. Well, Nizan, as always, it has been a pleasure for me, and I do appreciate you being on the show once again.
Thank you, Alan. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at steedtalker.com.